This is weird.
From the land of conjurers flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you are listening to this program. I am Frosty, and joining me, as always, is the medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Well, we've made our way into, for me, what is the summer months. I think this morning I had no clue that we had a show today because I had no clue what day of the week it was. So that's
already hit that.
Yeah, that's always the goal. Like, I guess it is my goal, maybe not to know what day of the week it is during the summer. I have to kind of force myself to keep up with things. But here we are, I guess, right in the heart of Gemini season. Of course, I had my birthday last week. I wanted to thank everyone who left a message for me on our Discord and on Facebook and all those places. Thank you very much. I did have a good birthday. We went out to dinner with the family and caught the new Mandalorian movie, with Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, Frosty Senior got to come, which was
very
nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we enjoyed it. It was a good night. So that was good. We have a lot of other things coming up around the corner here this month as well. Things are getting busy. But before we get into that, I just want to make sure I mention that we are part of the Spirit Realm Network. So if you want to go on Facebook, follow the Spirit Realm Network, you can follow the Witching Hours there, and Jenny and I are both on there too. You can go and give us follows and keep up on all the latest information for that. Wherever you're watching us, whether that's on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube or Pandora or iHeartRadio or all the many places that I see people downloading our podcasts, if you could just take a moment to give us a thumbs up, like, review, whatever those things are, wherever you are, that would always appreciative to help other people find the show. Reviews are especially helpful on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review there to help others find and watch and grow Team Weird.
Speaking of Team Weird, in less than 20 days, we'll be at the Team Weird Takeover at the Lord Baltimore Hotel in Baltimore, Maryland, June 27th to 28th. There are still tickets available if you'd like to join us. Our wonderful guest that we're going to have on tonight is going to be there as part of our amazing guests that'll be giving lectures and classes and whatnot. Your tickets are $60 at thewitchinghourspodcast.com. You can click on the merch button to get your ticket. And Frosty's made an extra special something that he'd like to share with you just for Team Weird Takeover.
Well, we do have a t-shirt that is going to be that is available. You can go to the store, thewitchinghourspodcast.com. You can go to our store, and there is an official Team Weird Takeover 2026 shirt. The front has an image of the Lord Baltimore Hotel, and the back, of course, has the date and all that. So if you want, first off, if you're going and you want to have a shirt to be able to have as a memory for that, then you can pick that up from the store. Or, if you wanted to go and couldn't make it this year, but you want to be able to join with that, that's also something that
you can get the shirt and tell everybody you went.
Yeah. I have lots of concert shirts sometimes I've never been to before. So it's a cool design, though. I had fun working on that shirt. So if you want one, there you are, available for sale up at thewitchinghourspodcast.com. All right. So we got those things out of the way. I'm trying to think what else we have coming up. That's the big one. So looking at our schedule as we kind of round up, I just put some upcoming shows, like an upcoming show graphic up on our Discord and social media recently. Next week, we're going to have Irene and Danica on to talk about Team Weird Takeover, and that's going to be followed up the week of Team Weird Takeover with Allison, the Priestess of Wonderland. And then we're not going to have a show the week after, because we're going to be coming back from Baltimore and all that. So we're going to have that. But we're going to come right back strong in July. July the 6th will be our first show back, and that will be with the one Patty Negri. Yeah. So some great shows coming up for you very soon. All right. You ready for some weird news, Jenny? Want to get weird?
Of course. Right. If you've got a spooky shop, haunted attraction, paranormal book, or strange little business of your own, you can sponsor the Witching Hours. We offer host-read ads like the one you're listening to right now. And for the weird news segment, you can find pricing and details at the witchinghourspodcast.com. Come get weird with us.
And weird, we're going to get tonight. The weird news, as always, I have my my dose of alien stuff. Wonderful. First one tonight is a priest removed as exorcist over UFO remarks. A Catholic priest has been removed from his role as an exorcist after making remarks linking UFOs to demons.
Oh, good.
Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, a well-known exorcist in Washington, D.C., was relieved of his duties by Cardinal Robert McElroy, the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., after saying in a May 29th video that many, if not most, UFO sightings could be explained as demonic activity. McElroy took action on June 3rd and said the comments gravely undermined official Catholic teaching on demons and exorcism, prompting the Archdiocese to cut ties with the center that is headed by Rossetti. Rossetti later said he was saddened by the decision and apologized, pledging to remain obedient to church doctrine. The original comments came from May 29th when he made a post on Facebook that said, "There's a danger here. As an exorcist, I want to raise that danger, and that is that demons like to hide. They don't want us to know what they're doing because they're more effective when we don't realize it. They can get into your head, and manipulate things in the world to influence us to evil. It's my personal belief that probably many, if not most, of these UFO sightings are in fact demons."
Dang.
So the Catholic Church, I guess, kind of a stance that they're not connected.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's coming from a cardinal.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Catholic Church has done some interesting things over the last several years, but
they have.
That was story number one. Any thoughts on that, Jenny, before we move on?
I mean, I'm glad that I don't know, that the Catholic Church was doing something to kind of put a cork in it,
Yeah. I mean, it's been obviously I think we talked about this recently with the current administration and drawing links to the Secretary of the Secretary of Defense and stuff like that, coming out and talking about connections with that and the demons. So Catholic Church is coming out and saying no. Story number 2, missing U.S. scientist body found skeletonized with a gunshot wound. The body of a missing nuclear lab worker who vanished last year was reportedly found skeletonized with a gunshot to her skull in a national forest in New Mexico. It didn't say in the article what they meant by skeletonized, other than there was a skeleton that was left. I
mean, I'm sure that just means that she was there long enough to where that's all that was left.
Well, decomposition, but I've never heard that term before. It seems, I don't know. Melissa Cassius, the king body, was found in a remote part of the Carson National Forest on Monday, according to local authorities. She was 54 years old and last seen on June 26, 2025. Thomas McNally, a former homicide detective who was investigating Cassius' disappearance for her family, told the Daily Mail that the mom of one's corpse was propped up against a tree with a gun lying nearby. The investigator firmly believes that foul play was involved in Cassius' death and hinted that her devastated family will file a civil lawsuit against the New Mexico State Police for purportedly botching the case. Cassius worked as an administrative assistant at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, which was created during World War II for the Manhattan Project. On the day she disappeared, the married mother wiped all records from her phones before leaving them and her identification behind and walking out of her home in Ranchos de Teos, a remote community some 70 miles northeast of Santa Fe. Cassius is just one of several people with links to the U.S. defense and nuclear programs who have gone missing or died suddenly in recent years. Former Los Alamos employee Anthony Chavez, 79, vanished without a trace after leaving his home on May 4, 2025. Monica Riza, 60, an aerospace engineer who served as the director of NASA's Labs Materials Processing Group, disappeared while hiking in Los Angeles Forest in June of 2025. Stephen Garcia, a government contractor working for a major facility in Albuquerque, also disappeared after walking out of his home August 28th, 2025. And
So, like, all of these were like last summer.
And retired Air Force Major General William Neal McCaslin, 68, hasn't been seen since leaving his home in Albuquerque on February 27th. The FBI is now involved in the search for McCaslin, who had deep knowledge on UFOs and was involved in some of the Pentagon's most advanced aerospace research. He also headed up the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
I mean, those are all the hot spots for stuff and things. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers become a little staggering. You would think that, like, okay, like some people go missing. I would love to have. I just saw that they were talking about the missing 401. I think Joe Rogan had on his podcast the other day. I've been wanting to talk to about that specifically since I've heard of, since I listened to that on the Art Bell program a long time ago. But just how many people go missing every year is absolutely astounding.
This is all people that were working on the same things.
Yeah.
And like they're working on the things for the government or for NASA. So who's doing this to them?
And that time frame seemed really significant too, like you pointed out, from May to August.
A lot of them were last summer, and and some of them are just being found now, almost like a year later.
And you have all this information coming out about disclosure, and now all this is trickling out. I don't know. It seems a little.
Who's doing it, and for what purpose? It doesn't make any sense.
Story number 3, 1 out of 4 Americans say they've had near-death experiences, according to a major survey.
1 out of 4?
Yeah.
Wow.
Near-death experiences might be more common than most would think, according to a new study by the International Association for Near-Death Studies. The study reveals that 23% of American adults report having had a near-death experience, after which they return to normal human existence. The study also reveals that 35% of the individuals queried about such experiences who have not had an NDE themselves said they know someone who has. In an NDE, usually during a close brush with death, a person has a vivid, emotionally intense experience of lucidly perceiving the material world from a position outside the physical body and or perceiving and interacting with beings and environments not of the material world, said Janet Riley, executive director of the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And she says afterward, experiencers are usually profoundly changed. The survey conducted in March of this year involved 2,100 Americans, looked more deeply at the effects of these experiences. Among those who reported having an NDE, 51% said the experience gave them a deeper meaning and appreciation for life, while 37.6% said they felt more connected to a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
That kind of surprises me because that means only 51%, just really half, the NDE gave them a deeper meaning and appreciation for life. And less than half said that they felt more connected to some spiritual realm afterwards.
Yeah. So the rest of them are just like,
surprising.
whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
No,
2,100 people. I mean, it's a lot of people. I don't know. I'm glad that someone's looking into it, doing a survey from it, but I don't know. 1 out of 4. What do you think?
I mean, I've listened to a lot of people's NDE stories, and every single one of them is different, but so many of them have threads that are similar through most of them, and most people's lives are changed after it. And some drastically. But the skeptics will say that that it's just our brains firing off, doing weird stuff, but
DMT.
there's been cases where people have been able to verify things that they couldn't know um, while they were dead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to get stuck on that, but so you're telling me that you die, you're on an operating table, your body floats up to the ceiling, and you're watching the doctors perform the operation.
Hmm.
Uh, they declare you dead. You hear the machine flatline. You see the nurses scramble out of the room, and then all of a sudden, zapped, you return to your body, but you don't have any more connection to the idea of the spirit realm, and it really serves no meaning or gives you any more appreciation for life.
Everybody's different, Frosty. Everybody's different.
Story number 4. Story number 4. Filmmakers claim they've caught America's Loch Ness monster on video.
Yeah.
New filmmakers claim to have unexpectedly filmed stunning footage of a mysterious creature known as America's Lost Loch Ness monster. Richard Rossi and Kelly Tabor filmed a children's movie based on Champ, the mythical serpent-like beast that for decades has been rumored to lurk in the 125-mile-long Lake Champlain, which straddles upstate New York, Vermont, and parts of Quebec. But it was only when they were editing parts of the footage 2 years later that they saw something swimming behind their small boat, which they are convinced is proof that Champ is real.
That's so funny. They were making a movie about it, and
Mm-hmm.
they caught footage of what might be it
Mm-hmm.
unexpectedly. Interesting.
When I saw it like a skinny neck, and then that body got larger. Tabor said it looked like the skinny neck was oscillating back and forth as if it was grazing underwater. My eyes were popping out. They called over. They called over Rossi to review the footage for their movie. Uh, Lucy and the Lake Monster was the name of it. The video caught the attention of the History Channel's hit series The Unexplained, whose producers told the filmmakers the clip is the strongest visual evidence of Champ since a 1977 photograph.
Wow.
The video is notable because it allows the long rumored cryptid to be seen in a scale next to the 11-foot boat in
Which
frame.
it makes the boat look like it's the same
So,
size as the boat.
yeah, it looks maybe the same size or a little bigger than the boat, so it's at least 11
Yeah.
feet. Um, for those who haven't been able to check it out, I did put a still frame from that video in the Discord under Weird News. So if you want to see the image, I did post that in there earlier today, so you can take a look at it. The first notable sighting of Champ goes all the way back to 1819 when Captain Crumb claimed to have encountered a creature 187 feet long with the head of a
Wow.
seahorse.
Cool.
So
I like it.
that was the weird news.
Pretty weird.
All right, Jenny, you ready?
Of course.
You ready to talk about fairies?
Yes.
Andrew Warburton grew up in Bristol, England. He received his master's in creative writing at Bath Spa University and has published poems and short stories. He lived in Massachusetts for many years and now resides in Rhode Island. He is the author of 2 books on American fairy folklore, New England Fairies, New York Fairies, and the soon-to-be-released Fairies of Northern Appalachia, a history of the little people of the mountains. Please welcome to the show, Andrew Warburton. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm good. Hi, Frosty. Hi, Jenny Lee. Thanks for having me on.
I have the New England fairies right here. Model it
Lovely.
for everybody.
It
I
looks
was
colourful.
at the the index in the back of all the glossary of fairies, and it's unbelievable how many there
Mm.
are.
Yeah.
And so many of them have, I guess, Native American names
Yeah.
that I wouldn't even try to pronounce.
I know it is difficult because it was turned into an audiobook, so I had to write like a guide
Oh,
for the actor
How to
of like, how to
pronounce
pronounce it.
everything.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's like this website called Native Languages that covers a lot of that. So that was helpful.
Wow.
But yeah.
Did they do a good job pronouncing the things? Did you listen to it?
Well, so not necessarily like some, but it wasn't so much the Native American names. It was more the Massachusetts names.
Oh.
Like
oh
things
yeah.
like
Mhm.
like we say Natick. Do you know the town? You probably don't know the town, do you? Natick. Well, he said something like Natick. And he just pronounced a lot of it. I shouldn't be saying this, should I? Because it's like,
No.
well,
Well,
it's like,
I will
It's
say,
really hard
Andrew,
to
it's
pronounce
not
things.
it's
I
not
have a really hard time pronouncing things.
well, right. And
and
we have these old English names here.
Yes.
Well, you think that would help him though? So, because he was British, the guy.
well, I will say it was a little difficult because I'm originally I'm a military brat, but I from Virginia essentially, and I lived in Rhode Island for a few years as a kid, and it was very difficult kind of picking up on the way things were pronounced there as the way we were pronounced here, and vice versa. So like at the time when I moved to Rhode Island, I moved from Williamsburg. So like I was in Colonial Williamsburg like all the time.
Hmm.
And so when I moved up there, I remember my teacher saying that we started learning about like Powhatan. And I was like, Powhatan? Who's Powhatan? And they're like, oh, he was like the chief of the Native Americans in Virginia. And I was like,
You
no,
mean
his name's Powhatan.
Powhatan?
And they're like, actually, it's Powhatan. And I'm like, well, actually,
Actually.
I lived in Williamsburg. His name's Powhatan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of different pronunciations between New England and Virginia for sure. So it's not easy to do
Yeah.
by any of these stretch of the means. I know just by doing the weird news that I have to go into my please excuse me if I don't pronounce this name right voice quite often.
It is hard. I feel like people outside New England might not notice, but anyone who's from New England, if they listen to that
Mhm.
audiobook, they'll know straight
Yeah.
off that this guy does not know his New England places.
Well,
Yeah.
and then, you as I'm sure you know more than I do, that sometimes the way that the American English and the UK English pronounce the same word is different. So like
Yeah.
I've been listening to an audiobook where the narrator is British, and every once in a while he'll say a word and I'm like, I just laugh because it's like that is not how we pronounce it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. Words are weird.
Weird news.
Yeah. There's all kinds. Yeah, I could go down a rabbit hole in that actually. But I won't because we have other things to talk about. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of myth that goes there. You know, I guess before we get into some of the newer things we want to talk about, since
Mhm.
Jenny kind of brought that up, because there is a lot of Native American fairy or fae that we find in North America. Obviously, that's what was tied to the land, the people who had been here the longest. Do we
Yeah.
find that there are a decent amount of European fairy types that also made their way to America with that diaspora of English settlers or Irish settlers or German settlers?
Yeah, for sure. So the Scots Irish um, brought their fairy law to northern Appalachia and southern Appalachia, but they didn't often like see fairies, but they mainly kind of told stories about them.
Mm,
But there are some encounters. So we have like an encounter in Kentucky with a man who saw some fairies while he was a postman and he was on a horse. And he saw like a little red-headed fairy who threw an arrow at his horse. It made the horse lame, and
Mm.
then he came back the next day. The fairy flew off, and he found like the arrowhead, So this is in like Knox County, Kentucky. It's one of the Appalachian Eastern counties. And that collecting of like flint arrowheads in Ireland and Scotland, they were called elfstones back then, and they would have been like Celtic, like prehistoric arrowheads. And that apparently, I guess, continued in Appalachia. So people would find these arrowheads and call them elfstones, or and he would carry it as a protective charm after that day when they first threw it at him. So
Which
that
is funny
yeah,
since
okay.
it lamed his horse.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing with magical objects. They often
Yeah.
seem to have like both, don't they? They harm, but they also heal. It's weird. It's
Mhm.
like, so what they would have harmed people back in Ireland, harmed the cattle and things like that. But people did carry them as like protective charms, or they would like boil them in like milk or water or something, and then they would use the water or the milk to sort of
Oh.
heal their cattle.
Magic.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
much magic, isn't it? And the Scots Irish and Appalachia, they were definitely magical, but it was just a very concrete magic. You know, it was like literally things that they could find in the garden, and very basic concrete things. And they didn't so much extend that magical belief to kind of a fully fledged other world like they do, like they did in Ireland and Scotland. It was just like sporadic actual encounters, and descriptions of real fairies was more sporadic, but their kind of view of magic seems to be much more like nature based and simple.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because there just always seems to be that, like you were just talking about, like kind of this catch-22 of like the good and the bad, like the healing and the magic that the Fae possess, but also the sense of trickery and mischief that it's up to, or even ill-natured, to a certain degree, which kind of reminds me, I guess, of maybe one of the more popular, even though it's been like very much brought into the mainstream, of like leprechauns, of like they have this treasure that you can get, but at the same time, you're gonna, I guess, play hell,
Yeah.
we're trying to get it, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Fairies do seem to be associated with good fortune and bad fortune. So
Yeah.
they make us sick, but they also can make us rich. There are some stories from Pennsylvania with some little kind of fairies, like very small ones, who would like chop up. They would like steal farmers like turnips and things, and then they would like cut them up, and then the next day the vegetables would all turn into gold. So
Oh.
yeah, so yeah, I don't know why fairies both bring good fortune and bad.
Yeah, stole all
Yeah.
the turnips, destroyed them, but then
Destroyed them, but then
it's
rewarded them.
gold. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I know that you were able to listen back to this, Jenny, our last
Yes.
interview a little bit, but
Mhm.
there was something I remember I wanted to talk last time. I can't remember if I got to it or not, but I was listening to another podcast about fairies, and they were talking about how never to give a gift to a fairy. Did we talk about that last time?
We did
Can't
talk about it,
remember.
yeah.
We did.
So are
Mhm.
we supposed to give gifts to fairies or not? If they do something good for us, are we supposed to like give them some
Well,
strawberries and cream or something?
Well, that's a good point. That's another thing where it's sort of like, no, if they're willingly doing things for you around the house, they say not to give them anything. But I don't know, because then there are other traditions where people do leave them like bowls of milk and things.
Yeah.
So I would say you can leave offerings to a fairy, I think, but you just don't want to like see them. You don't want to see them while they're doing what they do. Let them be, but just leave the offerings from a distance, I
Yeah.
suppose. Because if you give
Well,
them, you don't want to give them an item of clothing, because then they'll be off.
well, let us know in chat, for you hanging out with us tonight. If a fairy did something nice for you in your home, would you leave a gift for him? Some
I
they're
had a lady
strawberries or
tell
something?
me I had a lady tell me at a Paracon once to never thank a fairy.
Mhm.
Never thank them, because for some reason it would make them more mischievous with you or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what that points to is just that, as human beings, people, we have this like system of exchange. Someone gives us something and we say thank you, or
Mhm.
someone gives us something and then we owe them something, or we tend to work with each other on a system of like reciprocity, and like we're equal partners and we're in this together. But it
Mhm.
feels like fairies work so much according to their own kind of logic that if you try to kind of treat them in a way that you would treat other members of your own society, it seems like they become offended, or they take it badly. So yeah, they'll disappear on you.
Chico was asking,
Mhm.
do they even like us or want to interact and connect with us?
Well, in the Scots-Irish stuff that I've been researching, because of how it came to Appalachia, they do want to interact with us, and they're kind of, fairies are sort of dependent on humans. So, but they get quite a bad rap in Scottish folklore. So they like to abduct humans for like slave labor. They'll,
Fun.
they'll abduct they'll abduct women to be midwives to the fairy queen or something, or they'll just abduct women to sort of augment the fairy population. And then there's the whole thing about them exchanging human children for old fairies,
Mhm.
sick old fairies.
The
So for some,
changelings.
yeah, so for
Yeah.
some reason, it's like the fairies, they don't exactly like us, but they are dependent on us, and no one really knows why. But it's almost as if their own society isn't fully self-sufficient without kind of
Mhm.
stealing from ours.
Hmm.
Mm.
That's something to think about.
That is something to think about because we know another group of people that are having that issue.
Who's that? Uh,
It's like some. It's like it almost reminds me a little bit of stuff we talked about with ET about how they're like
Yeah.
having like the
Right.
midwifery
The
and stuff, and like
abduction, the like having to
abductions and
augment the population with
augment the population and being
human.
reliant on like human
Yeah.
DNA
is
and
that UFOs? Is it?
yeah.
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 There's a lot
That's
of crossover, I
You
think.
know,
yeah.
there is a little bit of crossover there because a lot of the very earliest, a lot of the first write-ups and stories from people who were being harassed um, by ET actually called them goblins,
Oh wow.
and
Mhm.
they were actually much shorter than oftentimes we would talk about grays or something like that today. So, I don't know. It just struck my I don't know
Yeah.
if we wanna get into that, but it kinda struck me when we said that there are some connections there.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely the bright lights and things like that.
Yeah. I wonder
Mhm.
if there were ET encounters in the past and it got put into the fairy folklore and it's
Well,
all
yeah.
mixed up, you know?
And I mean, the people who encountered fairies, in the 16th, 17th century, they didn't really, I don't think, did they have a conception of space, like that someone could come from another planet? Like
I
we're
have
very
no idea.
cosmological. Like we have a
Yeah.
strong idea about that aliens could,
Mhm.
life can exist elsewhere. But I think that their idea of well, that's our idea, our scientific idea of an other world, I suppose. Whereas their other world was sort of much more spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first time and I could be mistaken about this, but as far as I know, the first time you really start getting the idea of, like, science fiction and stuff the way that we would know it today would be, like, the late 1800s, like, get into, like, Jules Verne and,
Mhm.
the first one of the first films, A Trip to the Moon and all those kinds of things.
I
So,
wonder
yeah, I
if
don't think
anyone
you would have necessarily
thinks,
had that.
right, I wonder if anyone thinks that the fairies were actually aliens.
I don't know. I wonder if it's just kinda all mixed up
Yeah,
over
interesting.
the centuries, you know? CMC has a question. Are Irish leprechauns a form of or actual fairies?
Well, yeah, so the word fairies in the past, it was always like a catch-all term for all of these beings, really. Like elf was used before French became very dominant in England. It was the Germanic word, and then when French spread out, the word fairy was used in exactly the same way that elf was. So they're the same thing. Leprechauns, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's really just semantics, I guess. You know, I use the term fairy as a catch-all, but leprechauns are like little people, right? But
Mhm.
then, you know, if you talk, many Irish people would say the wee people for the fairies.
Mhm.
And so even though they didn't always see them as little people, you know, they would call them the wee people, maybe because the fairies were out of sight, you couldn't see them, so they were sort of the wee people. But yeah, I would class leprechauns as a type of fairy for
Hmm.
sure.
And then Chico has a thought w- about all of this. Maybe because we stole from them first, like we invaded their forest or land, cut down, took away, so they have less.
Yeah, for
Maybe that's
sure.
one of the reasons why they don't like us very much, or
I think
we
that's right.
perceive
Yeah.
them as not liking us.
Or we perceive them as, yeah. I mean, I think it's right because if you invade the spaces where they live, I mean that idea goes back for hundreds of years. You know, like if the fairies have a particular route that they take across the land, you can't get in the way of them. You have to stay out of their way. Or if you build your house on top of that route, like they'll burn the house down. Like that.
Yeah, don't
So
get
that kind of is the same thing, you know, if we destroy that forest, the forests where they're based, then yeah, they're not going to be very happy, I think.
right. Last time you were on, you were telling a story about the Fairy Hill with the Mohegans
Mm.
and how that they stood up for
Yeah,
the not building something there because it was where the fairies lived underground.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
great. I'm so glad that they managed to stop that because
yeah,
the hill is like this sacred place really for their whole history and for the and a lot of the religion. So and the little people live under the hill. So could you imagine like people living in a private housing development on top? Well, for a start, it's like probably not a good idea. Like, what do you want to have? Well, you don't want to, I don't know. Are they gonna burn it down?
yeah.
I don't know.
Burn the whole apartment complex down.
Hmm.
Don't do it. Let the wee people have their hill. So,
Exactly.
so last time you were on, you had just finished your Appalachian Fairy
Oh,
book, and
okay.
now it is about to
About
come
to,
out.
yeah, July 28th. It's coming out, Fairies of Northern Appalachia. I'm really happy and excited about this book. I think it's probably the most researched of the books,
Mhm.
just because there was so much information. Like you're
Yeah.
held back a little bit in New England by the fact that the Puritans
Hmm.
sort of
Yes.
kind of put a stop to fairies in,
Mhm.
although they didn't, I was reading recently, they didn't put a stop to magic. So loads of people across New England throughout the 1600s still practice folk magic.
Hmm.
But yeah, not they didn't so much believe in fairies. But in Appalachia, there's just so much material, like the Scots Irish, like I said, and the Pennsylvania Dutch. Um, yeah, it's been really interesting.
What were some of the major differences, other than there being a lot more information, that you saw between the New York and New England fairy lore base compared to the Appalachian?
Well, I didn't find so much. I think there's more Scottish material in this new book. I didn't really. I guess I'm on a Scottish thing right now because I didn't find that much in the. There was a little bit of Scots Irish fairy folklore in New Hampshire,
Mhm.
and there was a ton of Irish in New York. I
Mhm.
don't know if people know the difference between those two things, but when I say Irish, that's like the Southern Irish Catholic population that we mostly think of Irish. Scots Irish are the Presbyterians, Protestants that came from Scotland via Ireland and went to
Okay.
Ireland, then America. So yeah, that's a big difference. So the Irish law and the Scots Irish differ quite a lot, I'd say. The Scots Irish, all the things we were talking about before, like abduction, changelings, taking human women to be fairy midwives, that kind of thing. Those are all present in Northern Appalachia and Southern Appalachia. Whereas those ideas, for some reason, didn't carry across so much with the regular Irish.
Mm.
The regular Irish, it seems like tons of banshees in North America. They've heard they heard the banshee a lot. And
Yeah.
actually also in West Virginia they did too, and Pennsylvania.
You know,
Hmm.
getting into the history part of it, it makes me wonder, you know, when like the Scotch Irish and stuff settled in Appalachia, they were more isolated and removed from like
Yeah,
the English society that was happening there. So
yeah,
I think it would have been a little bit easier for those living in Appalachia to be able to hold on strictly to like those kinds of beliefs or ideas, whereas those that are living more on the East Coast, more in a anglicized society,
yeah.
would have had those parts stripped away a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Sure, definitely. And the parts of the United Kingdom where the Scots-Irish lived was like the border places. So it was the borders between Scotland and England, the border between Ireland and Ulster, which the Catholic and the Protestant part of Ireland. And so when they went to Appalachia, that was also like border territory.
Mm.
So the culture and the way of life, this sort of self-sufficient way of life, like we don't trust the king in England, we don't trust the Scottish king either so much. We kind of rely on our own family, our extended family. And we tell these stories, and we have a very distinct culture that's not exactly particularly nationalistic. It's more just sort of family based. So
Mm.
when they went to Appalachia, that very much survived that way of life. And I think we still see it today in the way that Appalachians just sort of really want to be self-sufficient, and they
Hmm.
don't want government interference, that kind of thing, which is really the same dynamic as what people were like back in the British Isles.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, they did. So a lot of archaic sort of practices and beliefs did survive there. But the interesting thing is that they didn't always survive. Like the fairies didn't always survive. So sometimes you'll see that like particular ballads that they sang were traveled across the ocean to Appalachia. But then when the people sang them in Appalachia, they literally like removed the fairy
Oh.
and they
Mm.
made it into like a non-supernatural song.
Hmm.
So it's almost like, even though some fairies did come over to Appalachia, they they didn't. Not everyone. They didn't feel relevant to everyone anymore. Plenty of Scots Irish in Appalachia just didn't feel the fairies were relevant to them anymore, probably because they were associated, with back home.
Yeah.
But then again, it's very complicated because again, there are some ballads that do keep the fairies.
Mm.
So the fairies were remembered in some ballads. But yeah,
And not in
Hmm.
others. Yeah,
That's
that's
weird.
interesting.
Yeah. Chico wanted to know, are there any photos of fairies?
I mean, people come up to me all the time at my events with like photos of lights and things, and also like little men and things like that. So I mean,
Mm.
yeah, and then there's the famous psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She came up with like the what's it called? The four stages of grieving or the five stages of grieving, like anger, denial, that type of thing. She
Hmm.
photographed fairies in the Shenandoah Valley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was passing through, and a woman would have been in the 70s, and a woman stopped her. She was passing through this little town, Afton, in the Shenandoah Valley, and showed her like this little Polaroid. And there was like a little fairy sitting on a stem of a plant or something, and it had like little wings. So the woman was like, I want you to go into my yard right now and take a photo using this Polaroid. So she did. She went outside, took a photo, and she said she saw like a little winged fairy again sitting
Wow.
on a flower or something.
And a Polaroid too is, it's instant. So it's not like there's going to be some manipulation of negative or dark
Right.
room things, at that time. It's like you take it and, after a few minutes, there's the image. So there's no way to manipulate it.
Yeah. Well, she
Yeah.
fully believed that it was real. She really thought it was fairies. And then
Mm.
but then the thing is her house burned down in the 90s. so she
Well,
lost the photos. What?
we were talking about them burning stuff
But-
down, right?
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they want to stay like
They were
kind of
there like,
hidden.
nope, you can't have that picture. Light it up. No,
I
that's
feel like
terrible. That's
I
terrible.
wouldn't have had to do all my books because we'd have had the evidence
Right.
there.
Yeah.
But all because her husband died.
There's no
Yeah.
pictures of the picture.
No, she didn't.
They're
I guess
just
she didn't
gone.
take any. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, the things that come to mind for me, I guess the most are what the Cottingley fairies, the ones that were taken by Arthur Conan Doyle or whatever.
Mhm.
Have those ever been proven 100% to be fakes? I know that a lot of people think they are, but
I thought they'd been proven because you can
Okay.
match up the figures with like figures from Queen Mary's gift book for girls or something.
Okay.
So they copied the pictures and then they added wings. But the thing is, even though those pictures are fake, like they've been very influential, and this idea of photographing fairies just took off. And now, like
Mhm.
in the book that's coming out in July, there's I'll have some stories in there about some women who photographed fairies, other than this Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. But the girls said that even though they faked some of the photographs, they did see the fairies in person. So they faked the photographs, but they still claimed, they never denied that they actually saw fairies.
Okay.
Hmm.
So people have come up to you and shown you pictures they've taken, and you've seen
Mhm.
little people in their pictures?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I wonder if, I just, it looks like, I just, I am skeptical, but I don't
Yeah.
want to be like, what the heck are you talking about? That's just a blur.
That's a stick. It's a stick with a leaf on the top.
So have you seen one that's made you think twice? Or are they all been kind of blurry?
I believe that there is an unexplained phenomenon of lights that shine in the forest, and because I've seen so many reports and so many people have told me about encounters with orbs, and not just ones that appear in photographs, like orbs that float around and come close to them and like investigate them.
Mhm.
So I believe that there is that unexplained phenomenon. They call them fairies, which is why it's of interest to me. I mean, obviously, what are they? We just don't know.
That was
And
actually something I wanted to talk more about because we had
yeah,
talked about the use, more current things people are seeing are orbs and they're referring to them as fairies. But then we also talked last time about, are fairies embodied thing that have a three-dimensional body, or are they something else that's interdimensional or spirit or like what have you? So then putting those two things together where people are seeing orbs and they're hearing giggling and this idea that maybe they're not a little body, running around the woods.
yeah.
I was hoping we could kind of dive into that a little bit more because
Mhm.
that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for like whether these beings are spiritual or biological. The old stories say that fairies gave birth, and that they ate and that they could be killed and things like that, which suggests that they are bodies. They did have bodies. But then in other parts of old stories, folklore, they could change their body at will. They could make it very small and fit through tiny cracks. And people called them spirits. So it is an interesting part of our culture that we have this sort of whole category of beings that really just don't fit neatly into our usual categories of mind, body, spirit, matter. That's a really bad way of answering the question because I can't answer the question.
Oh, you're muted.
It wasn't really a question. It was just
Yeah.
like a topic to talk
Yeah,
about because
exactly.
it's like something to ponder. Like
Well,
Chico
so
said, can
yeah,
it be both?
it
That
can.
they're
Yeah, I
embodied
mean,
and
I
their
think so.
spirit? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of at one point tried to read about I wrote a blog, I think, about the Wabanaki little people, and someone did kind of say to me, I think you're trying to impose like, European concepts onto this mythology, because I was talking about, are they spirits or are they bodies? And the fact is, I just don't think that people who told the stories about these beings really thought in those ways when it comes to, Native American. And so, yeah, I guess Native American folklore and spirituality could have a lot to teach us about seeing things differently, maybe in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny that you brought up that idea of like how different cultures could perceive that. Because I kind of wanted to bring up too the other day that for the first time I had kind of heard of jinn being referred to of kind of as in that same realm of like,
Yeah,
whereas I think from a Eurocentric point of view, when I saw, Wishmaster or whatever, like Wes Craven back in the day, it was like, oh, this is a very like demonic representation. Or we've had like Aladdin and like the genie and the lamp kind of, but the way it was explained to me, they could also kind of fit into this fairy kind of realm where they're physical and spiritual and mischievous and things like that.
yeah, I mean, definitely. And also, even angels, in the Bible, they appear as men.
Mm,
But I don't know, we kind of have fallen down on we've kind of come to the conclusion, I think, as a society, that angels are pure spirit. I think.
mhm.
Haven't we? Like, I don't think I don't know of anyone who talks about
You-
angels as having bodies. Or, well, they did actually for a while in the early modern era, didn't they? They said some people said angels had like subtle bodies. So very,
From my
very
experience
fine.
with angels, it's like
Mhm.
I don't think they really have a form, but they choose to show us
Yeah.
the image of a person with wings so that we understand what they are. So I wonder if fairy energies do the same thing.
Can they
You
take
know?
corporal form though?
Can they take
Aren't there
an
ideas
image?
of fairies like being like guardian angels, like someone a passerby in the street that actually,
Like a fairy godmother, fairy
well, let's talk
helper?
about angels
Oh,
still there. But
angels,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, but
Mhm.
that
Yeah, that they can show up as a
mhm,
person.
Well,
They're
right,
not really
because
a person. Yeah.
like
mhm.
Raphael, the archangel, he he gave medicine to uh Tobit. So he was very, very much like able to be a physical presence
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah. And yeah, like all of these things just make me think about the
Mm.
fairy energies and
Well,
like,
so that would
what are they
explain why.
doing?
Yeah, that would explain maybe why fairies like show up differently now somewhat than how they used
Mhm.
to, because it's
Yeah.
like maybe they show up how people would expect them to show up, which is like surrounded by lights and with wings, little
Mhm.
wings, and being small. Is that's kind of
Yeah,
what, are you sort of getting at, that basically that that could explain it?
I mean, I don't know. I'm
it
just
could.
throwing stuff around here. I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, so I think the people who have those encounters with lights, they're very they seem to be very it's a very kind of, I don't know, like a healing experience, or just it's a good experience for them. So in that case,
Yeah.
do the fairies choosing to show that kind of energy because that's what they want to achieve?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also that kind of what you guys were talking about brings along the idea too that like maybe if they're showing themselves in the way that we'll recognize them, which you've talked about too with angels, Jenny,
Mhm.
then how they are perceived could have changed many times throughout,
Mhm.
thousands of, hundreds and thousands of years. So like what these things were called and what they look like they could have changed how they represent themselves. And that's why you don't see these older versions. Um,
Maybe.
it's always a possibility.
But then there's also
But,
so many different types that fit under the umbrella of the fairy that are all very different from each other.
Mhm.
mhm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Also, I like to like emphasize a lot the human interpretive perspective and layer, because it could, it could be the fairies presenting in particular ways, but also we have quite an active role in how we interpret our
Yes.
experiences.
Mhm.
So, like in the 1600s, people would have said that the fairies, oh, they must be organized into courts with the fairy queen, and
Oh
you know.
yeah.
Whereas nowadays, I don't know, do people say that as much? Although I think, yeah, do people say that as much? Like,
Well, let me tell you.
Probably.
yes.
I did a reading where a fairy showed up in the reading, and I would describe her as a fairy queen. Yes. She was bigger. She was like much bigger than like what we would think of as a fairy. And she just had a presence that she was like she was in charge. She was
Yeah.
she was the one. So I don't like she didn't tell me I'm the fairy queen, you know. She didn't give me those words, but that was kind of
What you were
the
getting.
presence that I was getting from her. Yeah. So I
What
don't
did
know.
what did she look like to you in your
She
mind's eye?
looked she looked like well, she was a
She
female.
looked like.
She looked like a lady. She had a lady's body. She did have wings, but her face was if you pulled the ears and made them pointy, and like the face on the top was like pulled up and pointy,
Mm-hmm.
very distorted looking and stretched out, you know. But not in like a scary way. Like she was still very beautiful.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. I mean, it's interesting to me that a medium can see a fairy queen, you know, because in the past, people did all kinds of things because they wanted to see the fairy queen. Like they
Yeah.
would do all the ceremonial magic and they would fast for a certain number of days and all of this just to be able to kind of communicate with her. And here you are, just like seeing the fairy.
And then the fairy queen just
See the
showed up.
page.
I mean,
Well,
I don't know. I'm not expecting that, you know?
yeah,
Like I'm doing a reading. Maybe it's going to be grandma showing up.
right.
Maybe it's going to be the fairy queen. I don't know.
Mhm.
Frosty, it's the top of the hour. Do you want to reset everybody?
Well, I do want to say real quick before we go, Chico said, well, bees have a queen, so why not the fairies?
Yeah,
Which is what I
exactly.
was thinking as well. Yeah, it is. It's 9 o'clock here on the East Coast. So welcome in. If you've joined us since the beginning of the show, we are talking to Andrew Warburton, and we're talking tonight about fairies, fairies of New England, fairies of New York, and fairies of Northern Appalachia. So, uh, you know, it's been getting a little warmer. So if you've had a hot day, feel free to pull up a seat, get yourself a nice cool beverage, and enjoy the last little bit of the program. If you have a question for Andrew tonight, please feel free wherever you're at to put it in chat. If you're watching us live, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or wherever, feel free to put that in there and we will relay the questions as we have been doing tonight over to Andrew or your comments as well. So there we go.
So since the last time you were on, which was last October, have you had any new thoughts or revelations about fairies and, just in general?
Yeah, so what I've been going really interested in is this idea of Appalachian pygmies. So if anyone doesn't know, pygmies are like basically it's a word people use for little people
Mhm.
back in the 19th century. It had like a racial connotation back then. Like now we just understand that some people are sort of the pygmies like in Papua, what is it, Papua New Guinea where they live?
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, so basically, so I've been looking into that more because I just came up again and again with that theme in particularly southern Appalachia. I like first of all, I started reading about how these farmers would discover these pygmy skeletons in pygmy cemeteries. So that's like Tennessee in 1820, and then Kentucky in 1846, and then um, in 1903, I found out in Tennessee again that they discovered this. Some farmers again discovered like this little stone woman. It's now in the Smithsonian. They think it's like a prehistoric, like well, I don't know if it was an idol or just religious object or artifact. But the people who found it they thought that this was an actual petrified body
Okay.
of a
Yeah.
little woman.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I'm sort of connecting up this the with the pygmy cemeteries and finding these bones that they thought belonged to the little people, and then this petrified woman. It seems like there was probably not a universal or anything like that, not a universal belief, but at least a common enough belief that a race of little people once lived in the Appalachian Mountains among a certain number of people. So I got together with Mary Joyce in Cullowhee in North Carolina, right next to the Smoky Mountains. I don't know if you've heard of her, but I would recommend you get her on this show because she's great. She's this she researches all kinds of stuff about aliens, little people, Bigfoot. But what one of her most like important, I'd say, contributions to Appalachian, like little people folklore, is that she interviewed a bunch of sort of octogenarians in the town of Cullowhee back in the mid 2000s, and they had reported finding these little tunnels under the university, basically.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so these tunnels were like straight. They were about 3 or 4 feet tall, and they had rounded tops. And the clay in Appalachia is this very thick red clay,
Mm-hmm.
and it can like stay in place, I suppose. It's good for building with. I think the Cherokee built a lot of their houses with this clay. Um, so she said that these men, they believed they had this kind of belief that the little people once lived in the area, although they thought they'd sort of died out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they also remembered when they were little kids that one of the university buildings where these tunnels were found, they were little kids, and it was their school building, and they would go down into the basement and they could see these three little tunnels. Which and so I guess some of these men like attributed this idea to the Cherokee. They said that the
Mm.
Cherokee had told them that a race of little people had lived in the area. And then other ones just kind of said it was the little people. Um,
Weird.
but then it connects up with other
Hmm.
Appalachian myths about little people, like the Moon-Eyed People. I don't know if are you guys aware of the Moon-Eyed People?
It's seems familiar, but
I've heard the term.
tell us
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah. Well, so it's another race of sort of little people the in northern Georgia, if you go to like Fort Mountain, there's this very old stone wall that just like stretches across the mountain, and no one knows who built it.
Mm.
Um, but some people, it's sort of folklore that maybe these people called the Moon-Eyed People built it. And so there's like an old Cherokee lady from I don't know, very early days said that she'd learned from her elders that a race of white people lived in the area and that the Cherokee had driven them out. And
Hmm.
there are other stories about sort of locating them on the other side of the river that's in Murphy, North Carolina. Um, and then there's also a statue that's become associated with the Moonite people. It's in the museum in Murphy, and it shows two humanoid figures. They look like little aliens, actually, with these sort of staring eyes. So all of this stuff together, the wall, the statue, the Cherokee myths, they all sort of come
Mhm.
together and into this idea of the Moon-Eyed people. They were called Moon-Eyed because they apparently lived underground. They only came out at night because the sun was too like bright, too harsh
Mhm.
for their eyes, and they would come out
Mm-hmm.
and tend their gardens in the nighttime. Um, so we've got the idea of the Appalachian Pygmies, we've got the Moon-Eyed people, and the Cherokee little people. And there's just a lot of ideas floating around about little people in that part of the country for some
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
Do you know what size the pygmy skeletons were supposedly?
Well, they said I think it was like 4 feet, something like that, 4.5 feet.
Mhm.
The Smithsonian, I think, tried to kind of counter these ideas. They were like they were not little people. They were like they were just regular bones or children's bones, and they were put into small
Of course they
stone
were.
things. Yeah. So Mary Joyce, this Mary Joyce is completely convinced. Like, she's a true believer, but she's not actually from Appalachia. So she moved down. She interviewed these octogenarians, and they basically turned her into a believer in the
Yeah.
little people. And now she gets people like bringing her to their where they live, and they're like, oh yeah, this is where the blue-skinned little people live, and things like that. And they're like, oh look, I found a little walking stick, and it's like a perfect size for like a little pygmy.
Wow.
Hmm. You know, that's interesting to bring up that idea too, because I remember at some point in time reading an article about how the same thing had kind of been discovered in Ireland of like an ancient kind of, I don't know, like other Homo sapien that were like smaller people, like a dwarf Neanderthal.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered if you weren't, you know, digging in the garden one day and you come across these tiny little bones and you go, well, you know, what are those, you know? Like if that couldn't be the same kind of thing, if there even were other, you know, humans that were smaller
Yeah.
and you know, what do you do with that information when you get it, you know?
I know, yeah. I think in Ireland and Great Britain, it became quite an accepted belief in some circles that the fairies were a memory of an old prehistoric
Ah.
little race of men and women. But I think the difference is that in over there, that was kind of like promulgated by very educated sort of archaeologists and theorists, whereas in Appalachia it seems to be
And
much more just arising from farmers finding bones. So it's not
yeah,
educated people, it's just regular
yeah,
people.
yeah. In Great Britain, you get Tolkien, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, because all the whole story about the tunnels and things and reminds me of Tolkien's
In
dwarves.
their hole, there lived a hobbit.
The
Yeah,
Yeah,
dwarf.
and the
yeah,
hobbits and the dwarves, you know, living under the mountain and all of
yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
she just drove me all over the campus. I wasn't expect. I thought I was just going to interview her, but she like drove me all over the campus, showing the tunnels are found here,
Wow.
tunnels are found here.
Wow.
A security guard here was seen carrying out little bones, and when someone asked him what they were, he said, "Oh, they're just. I'm just going to go and bury them." So, but she also has a lot of stuff about UFOs that she's talked to and things like
Mm.
that. So she's a very interesting
We need
person.
to have her on the
Yeah,
show.
we should have her on.
All right,
Yeah.
Keisha.
Keisha,
Well,
get on it.
pass it along to.
The last time you were on, you were just finishing up writing the Appalachia Fairies
Mhm.
fairy book, and you were saying that you were hoping that you were going to be able to get to have some events in those locations where you did all the research. Did you get to do any events in those places?
I've got some coming up. I've got 2 events in Pennsylvania coming up. Um, that'll be good. One is and so they're going to be more focused on the Pennsylvania Dutch fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Carl Drake, what he's saying there about the Cherokee.
Cherokee said that they are
Yeah.
being described as being 2 feet tall, often having magically long hair and possessing great spiritual power.
Yeah, and that was the Moon-Eyed people he was talking about there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that he's talking there more about the Cherokee little people. I don't
Cherokees, little
the
people.
Cherokee, yeah, they differentiate between
Mhm.
the Moon-Eyed people and their own little people. I think I just saw the comment there. He said he described the Moon-Eyed people.
Yeah.
They had
Mhm.
like beards and white face.
Oh
White
yeah.
faces,
Mhm.
yeah.
Small,
But
bearded, and possessing pale skin.
but the weird thing is that you wonder about the direction of influence. Did Europeans influence Cherokee, or did the Cherokee influence the Europeans? And it seems to be
Mm.
more that the Cherokee influenced European American farmers rather than the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
Hmm.
Mary Joyce says that the Moonite people died out and
Mhm.
that the Appalachian Pygmies died out. But she
Yeah.
says that she thinks the Cherokee little people are still alive.
Oh.
Yeah, and you can.
Okay.
There are places that you can identify with those little people, the Cherokee. But that's I guess that's the Cherokee law.
Hmm.
Where were we talking?
Oh, your events that you're going to have in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be touching a lot on Pennsylvania Dutch fairies because it seems to be an underreported sort of field. Like people don't talk much about Pennsylvania Dutch fairies anymore, but there are plenty of legends and also sightings. Things like fairy rings.
Yeah.
Although we associate these ideas with Ireland, but I think they were everywhere in Europe. So I'm going to talk about that, and yeah, they mainly saw their fairies as like little people again.
So where are those two events that you're having?
It's Kutztown, which is the home of Kutztown University, and they have the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center, and then Lahaska, which actually I don't know if I could tell you where that is.
Hoaxsters, where is that? He's our Pennsylvania friend.
Oh, okay, Lahaska, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just gone to Pennsylvania for the first time last year, so
oh, really?
my Pennsylvania knowledge is
looks like it's north of Philadelphia. North of Philly.
okay.
Not too far away then.
Yeah.
It's probably near that Vampire Museum, which I went to on the way back from Appalachia. It's this museum.
A vampire museum?
Yeah, it's called Vampire. It's north of Philadelphia, I think. It's got all these artifacts about vampire lore.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you don't really know what's real, what you're looking at, though.
Right. Yeah. So fun, I guess.
Yeah, it was fun.
Hoaxster says not far from him. Good. All right, Hoaxsters. Well, then you need to go.
Yeah, I can't.
Put it on the calendar. So let's spend a little time talking about Team Weird Takeover. That's coming up very soon, and we're so excited that you're going to be there. What's the talk that you're going to be giving while you're there?
So the fairies of the four elements.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I think that this is kind of good because it's, I think most people in the paranormal field, I've experienced that they describe fairies as elementals, and they associate them with the different four elements. So I'm gonna tailor my more sort of folkloric approach to kind of like the idea of the elements, because a lot of these beings that I write about do seem to primarily exist in those elements. Like you have ones very obviously associated with fire, and then ones who very much live under the earth or in the hills, mounds, that kind of thing. And then obviously like water, we have like Vasinics, water sprites, and the water fairies and things like that. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, it should be fun.
Exciting.
Yeah, I know, I'm excited.
Have you ever been to Baltimore before?
No, I've passed by.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about the hotel itself?
Go ahead, Frosty.
Yeah, well, the hotel was built in the 1920s. It was built. I'm trying to remember it. The architecture style was some kind of like French Renaissance revival. So it very much is like King Louis kind of architecture for the hotel. Yeah, 1920s it was built. So that would have been the heyday for it. I actually stumbled across the hotel. Some friends of ours were staying there. We were actually going to a concert in Baltimore, and I went to go pick them up from their hotel and went to the lobby and was like, man, this place is absolutely fantastic. This is beautiful, and it just so happened that in the lobby of the hotel, they were advertising that they were doing a paranormal investigation that night. And I was like, oh, I'll have to keep this place on the radar. And we ended up eating dinner at the restaurant there, and the food was good and all that. So when we were looking for a place to have it this year, that was kind of popped back into my head. And it was a way to kind of get a little bit further north from us, kind of get through the DC traffic. So for all the people who are coming north, you don't have to fight through the DC traffic to get
through. Right. Unlike us, it will be.
It's going to be a hell.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of the lore on the hauntings of it. I know a little bit. I've kind of stayed in the dark on purpose a little bit to see what we get from the investigations. But, I think if you go by the idea of what a lot of paranormal investigations talk about, or the theory of ghosts and stuff it's been a hotel for what, over 100 years now.
Mhm.
How many people have walked in and out of those doors every day for 100 years? There's been a ton of motion and activity and excitement and just every kind of traffic you can imagine coming in and out of that place. So it would be really surprising if there wasn't some kind of paranormal activity happening.
Yeah.
And
we,
if there's something weird going on, he's gonna come right for him.
it is. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, we've got a number of mediums coming. You're going to be there. Sam's going to be there. Who else? Who are the other mediums? Are there other
Irene,
mediums?
yeah,
Irene and
Irene,
Kim.
yeah,
Okay.
Irene and Kim, yeah,
So we are gonna. It's gonna be an intense,
Right.
like energy spotting session.
yeah.
And
We can
Like
say.
most
half of
people
Team Weird.
most
Team
of the
Weird's gonna
people
be
that are
Team
part of
Weird.
Team Weird are
Oh, really?
sensitive
Uh-huh.
and into picking
They
up on
are.
stuff too. So
Maybe this will
Yeah.
be the weekend that I finally have my real paranormal
you might,
encounter. Maybe.
Yeah.
maybe.
We're doing a seance that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Well,
fun.
But he gets, so the way Sam does his seances is he starts off, it's like a little ritual. Everyone sits
Mhm.
around the room, and then he starts off with his dowsing sticks, and he asks the
Mhm.
spirit to like invite people up to the table. So, it's the lucky ones who get to go up and actually have this. And I don't know, I think last time he deliberately didn't invite me up to the table. Because I
Aw,
didn't.
Andrew.
No, but I think it's because he thinks, oh, Andrew's a skeptic and he's not really that into like communicating with the dead. So I'm not
Yeah.
gonna.
So the dowsing rods were pointing right at you, and he's like moved his hands a little bit.
Well,
So somebody else,
because surely with dowsing, you can probably override
right?
the spirits. The spirits are they're gentle, I think, right? I would
Yeah.
say.
With the dowsing, you would think so. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not much for it to move a little bit.
exactly.
So
So
he
I'm
just
excited.
moved it over. So
He moved it over, yeah, and he.
somebody else, anybody
I
but
have,
Andrew.
I did go. I did get called up once though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It
Did
was
you have
good.
an experience in the seance that
I
night?
really I tried so hard to like
Yeah.
to get into the spirit and to try to open myself up. But I don't know. I just don't. I think maybe I'm too analytical. That's why I write books. So I'm
Yeah.
just not. I'm not a sensitive to the paranormal.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it happens at different times for different people, or it doesn't, but it's
Mhm.
like we talk about all the time. It's I mean, there's nothing that doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. And all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
hey, I don't know what happened, but this one
Yeah.
time, I saw this thing, and that's all it takes is having that first experience. And then after that,
And
you're
that's
chasing
it.
it.
Well, so and I started telling people about my one time that felt paranormal but it was when I had sleep paralysis and like and
Mm.
there the door opened and there was like a little dwarf with like no face, but I interpreted the face as having like gashes all over the face. I don't know if I told you this story before, but anyway,
No.
No, we
so
haven't
I
heard
was
this one.
yeah, so then I guess it must have just broke. Sleep paralysis, it just suddenly goes.
Mhm.
It's weird. Um, that felt paranormal, but ever since I've always just put it down to sleep paralysis. But I mean, I don't know, maybe some paranormal people would like interpret that as, sleep paralysis lets you see the truth, the
Well, there is
reality of what's
a theory that when, when we're asleep, our bodies go into that state.
Mhm.
When we're dreaming, we are paralyzed. And the sleep paralysis is when you wake up too quickly and your body's still in that state,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you know because you've had it happen to you. But
Mhm.
there's a theory, a woo-woo theory here, that when we're in that state, that we're actually astrally traveling outside of our bodies and like doing other things with in other realms, the unseen realms. So
Mhm.
what if you were seeing the unseen realm because you
Yeah.
were not all the way back, to your physical self.
Right.
I'm gonna hopefully say not, because that's a scary one.
Well, so I
That is a
was,
scary thing to
Well,
see.
people see
yeah.
the most horrendous things
They
when they're in sleep
do.
paralysis. They
Well, it
don't see
was,
Yes.
like, really good
yeah.
things
It
typically.
was a dark time, I'd say, in my life at that time, and I was like 19, you can be kind of a mess when you're 19.
Yes.
So, and
We're
I feel
all
like,
allowed to be a mess at 19. Yes.
yeah, I feel like sleep paralysis, I think for me it was associated with stress to some
Yeah.
extent, and the drinking, stuff like that, just like messed up brain chemistry.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I saw a scary thing. But it's
Mhm.
also interesting that I can't explain why it was a dwarf. Like,
Right.
so there was someone in the house that I was a little bit afraid
Mm.
of because
Mhm.
I was left alone with this person because my partner went to work. And for some reason, I had this like wariness of this person, but he was very tall.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, when I woke up, I was like, oh, that dwarf was like an expression of my fear around this person. But
Mhm.
but it's the opposite because he was so
But
small.
then fast forward many,
Yeah,
many
that's what I was
years, and all of a sudden you start researching and looking into the little people.
The little people,
Uh,
yeah, exactly.
and that's what you saw, was a little person.
I know it's
I
weird.
don't know. So, like, what came
Okay.
first, the chicken or the egg there? Did you see a dwarf? 'Cause you were already connected with these little people, and it's, like, meant to be that you're gonna write about them later?
I wasn't
Or
really
did
that
you
interested. I'd had
that
exposure to
yeah,
fairy folklore, but I wasn't that
you weren't
interested.
interested in it then,
Yeah.
but is it,
But
like,
you did.
did that end up being part of, like, why you ended up doing it later? Or was it because you were meant to do it? I don't
Right.
know.
I mean, sometimes when I am in my most woo-woo kind of thinking, I kind of am like, oh, the fairies have called me to do what I'm doing,
Yeah.
it's like, but then because recently I was telling you before the show began about how I might be taking a detour away from the fairies, into straight
Yeah.
history. And I just felt like so sad. I was like,
Mhm.
because the fairies have been such a big topic of my thinking and my writing for a long time now. And it's like there's this sadness of like leaving them. And almost like I was kind of like thinking, oh, that they don't want me to stop. They don't
Mhm.
want me to stop writing about them, that there's still that
Yes.
pull.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you
I
should
just
listen to
That's
that.
okay.
yeah, I just need to
Yeah.
see another I just need to see another dwarf.
But hopefully with a face this
Hopefully
time.
with a face. Well, so when I didn't know one day we'll send a tiny person back to 1996. Yeah, maybe it was me now sending a dwarf back to my 19-year-old self
I don't
to say,
know.
you have
So
to
that you'll
write about.
write books about fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
There's so many theories we could go down here. Okay, so I would like to end with a fun question. Let's not end on the scary dwarf guy with no face.
Okay.
If you were going to have a fairy encounter, what kind of fairy would you want it to be with?
It's got to be the Fairy Queen, right? Like
Oh
I
yeah.
would, yeah, for sure, yeah. Although I don't want her to abduct me. I don't want her to fall.
Yes.
I don't want to become her royal consort. I mean, there might be some people who wouldn't mind doing that, probably, but not.
Mhm.
It's not really for me. And I don't want to look after her children. I just.
You don't want chores involved in it, right?
She could give me like secret knowledge of the
Mhm.
future, secret knowledge of herbs, maybe to heal people.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know because I some of that ceremonial magic where people got in touch with the fairy queen, and they gave her names like Sibylla, and Mikob is another name of the fairy queen. They they were not very respectful of the fairy queen because they were like
Mhm.
ordering her around. They
Yeah,
were
no, don't do that.
it was like conjuring, So I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do it that way. I feel
No.
like you wouldn't want to do ceremonial magic. So it would probably hopefully it would be a fairy queen in, I don't know, nature.
Yeah. Well, I would I'll share this little tidbit
Yeah,
of a story then, and maybe you remember it happening. We went to dinner after the Paracon when we were all there
yeah,
together in Connecticut, and we were talking about your fairy stuff,
Mhm.
and me and Sam just looked at each other and we started laughing. And it was because we both understood in that moment that you will have a fairy experience.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It was like, because you've spent, it's like what you just
Yeah.
said,
Mhm.
because you've spent so much time researching and collecting all these stories and trying to understand them and all of that. It's like it's almost like they want to give you something in return,
Yeah.
which is like the opposite of what you were saying at the beginning, right? That they don't want to exchange, but it feels
Yeah,
like they
yeah.
do
Okay,
because
they want to make contact
yes,
to use
it's gonna
UFO
happen.
language. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I hope that would be awesome. Maybe I should
Sam
have
and
a
I both saw it. We
yeah.
both saw
So
it at the
you
same
had like a
time.
little medium moment, like
Yeah, we did, because we just looked at
okay.
each other and started laughing because we knew exactly at that moment. They were like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna see
Well,
one."
and maybe I'm already having the some sort of contact with them, but just it's not visible. Although I wouldn't say I am exactly. Yeah, but yeah, maybe one day, hopefully.
Yeah,
I need to find a fairy ring.
yeah, fairy ring.
Maybe it will happen in
The
Baltimore,
Lord
Maryland, at
In
Team Weird
Baltimore.
Takeover.
I don't know. I've heard from a friend of ours that they have giant rats there, but I don't know about
I don't know
fairies.
about
in
fairies.
the hotel.
No, not
No.
a hotel.
Oh,
On
in
the street.
Baltimore, in Baltimore. Oh, right, yeah. Okay,
We'll see the Rat King instead of the Fairy Queen.
Fairy Queen.
That is Andrew, fairiesofnewengland.com, right? And if
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken, your book is available for pre-purchase.
Yeah, that's right.
All
Yeah.
right.
So go get it. And there's going to be a hardcover version.
Yeah, there is, which they're trying something new with that. So yeah.
And the cover is beautiful.
Yeah, so it's a picture of the there's a fairy queen on the cover, but she's a
Yeah.
little hard to spot because there are two figures that look like fairy queens. One who, but only one of them is really wearing a crown. So
It's a gorgeous cover. Go check it out. Fairiesofnewengland.com. Go if you live in Pennsylvania, Hoaxsters, go see one of his talks.
Yeah,
Hoaxsters. And if you're coming to Team Weird Takeover, you're going to get to see Andrew in person and hear his talk about the elements, fairies and the elements, which is really exciting.
We're looking forward to it. It's going to be an absolutely wonderful time. If you want a ticket, you can go to the witchinghourspodcast.com, click on the link to the shop, and it'll take you right there. And then, of course, as it is said, go to fairiesofnewengland.com. You can purchase any of Andrew's previous books and his new one for pre-order. So go do that. Thank you so much for joining us again, Andrew. I can't wait to see you here in just a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And it's not long now, is it?
No. 19 days.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
The official
All right, Andrew, so
countdown.
make sure you stay on for a minute until the show's over.
Well,
We're going to say goodbye to you.
Okay.
All right, Frosty.
So for all of you who are listening at another time and another place, we will see you all next time. And for everyone who's still hanging out with us over on Facebook land and right here in Twitch with all of our wonderful Team Weird people, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. And thank you for all the great comments and great questions. I tried to get to them all. There was a bunch of great comments that I didn't get to, but I did read. I was reading them, keeping up with you guys. Thank you so much for all of that. Medium Jenny Lee reached a 45 stream streak tonight.
Streak. It would have been a lot longer if when we were at the Paracon, I wouldn't have lost my streak because I wasn't able to watch it because we were doing it live. Dang
and CMC Air Boss resubscribed for 25 months. They've been subbed for 28. So thank you, CMC. So take care, everyone. We'll go find someone to raid out to on Twitch land tonight.
Scorpy's on.
Oh, we have Scorpy.
Captain
yeah, let's
Cosmo.
raid Scorpy. It's been a minute since we raided Scorpy.
Okay. I should be streaming this week, hopefully.
Yeah, the return.
And readings on Friday.
All right, everybody. Take care. We will see you all later this week. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Good night and take care.
Bye.
Bye.